Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about the interview that David Zabel did that I think gave us a lot of clarity in terms of the future of The Walking Dead and how, Rick Grimes could be involved or like other characters. Because he talks about, I guess, the future of the show, and he actually gets into one thing specifically that I found very, very interesting because I was always wondering how all of this works in terms of the spin-offs and Scott Gimple's involvement in these shows. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see how this is going to go over the next couple of seasons here. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, I'm seeing this here in an interview with Hollywood Reporter, so definitely go and check out the article. I'll leave a link down below to the article, but there's actually a point here in the article in which David Zabel talks about, working with Scott Gimple and sort of, I guess, the future of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, right? Because I think that's one thing that a lot of people focus on quite a bit, which is, like how long are the spinoffs going to be going on for? Is it going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, or is like season 3 going to be the last season? And so David Zabel actually talked about that, like what's after Spain, or like what are they going to be doing next after, I guess, that storyline, right? And so he does say, I can't tell you, but I do have a plan. I've talked to Norman about it. There's a very cool plan, but we don't even know if we're making season 4 yet, which I will say Norman Reedus has talked about that. They're all, talking about doing that story for season 4. Obviously, it has to be officially renewed for a season 4, but I imagine it's going to, because, there's no way that this show is going to get canceled after 3 seasons, right? Even like 5 or 6 seasons. Like, I don't see the ratings for this dropping below Interview with the Vampire and other shows that AMC has. Like, those shows would be canceled first before The Walking Dead would, at least in my opinion, because The Walking Dead obviously makes the most, I'm assuming, right? But then he says, I've had pretty free reign, says Zabel. I talk to franchise chief creative officer Scott M. Gimple all the time, and he said, you have free reign, at least for now. Keep doing what you're doing. But at some point, I imagine some things might be determined by what other characters are doing and where they are. So I don't know if Negan's going to get on a raft on the Hudson and wind up in Europe. And so that part there I found really interesting because of the fact that David Zabel is basically just able to do whatever he wants with the story right now. And Scott Gimple is just allowing it because, again, what he said there, you have free reign, at least for now. And so David Zabel can do whatever he wants with the story. I'm sure that Gimple overlooks everything, but he's able to sort of do what he wants with the story. And obviously he talks with Norman Reedus and everybody else about, what they want to do in terms of just the overall story there. But Gimple said at least for now. So at some point, obviously, I'm sure Gimple's going to find out, from AMC or whoever, like, all right, well, we're going to go in this direction here. Once we get into season 4 or 5, I imagine at that point there, they're going to have to start introducing other characters into the show and like, it's starting to bring the characters closer together. And so I like the fact that Gimple is actually doing that, because if Gimple was involved in every aspect of the story, it really wouldn't be the best for the show. Like, I do think after season 2, though, there should be some sort of intervention in terms of, character choices or story choices, because I think that was the issue with season 2. And again, I'll do a review of the overall season. I'll probably release it this Sunday, a week after the finale aired. And, I just wasn't the biggest fan of season 2. And I really enjoyed like the very last episode. I enjoyed episode 5 and I enjoyed moments of the previous episodes, but just story decisions is really the issue. Killing off certain characters and the way that they told certain moments. I'm not a fan of that. And I think that if Gimple, if he was involved a little bit more, or maybe he already was, I have no idea, but I just think that if he was a little bit more involved and just said like, we can't do this or whatever, like who knows, like maybe he actually was okay with it overall. But those things there I really have issues with overall. And honestly, even if you wanted to kill off the characters that you did, I just think that again, the 6 episode thing really is sort of the issue. What's really exciting is the ending of what he said here, which is, at some point here, I imagine some things might be determined by what other characters are doing and where they are. So I don't know if Negan's going to end up on a raft on the Hudson and, wind up in Europe. And so I think that that's something that in terms of, like the one thing about the Walking Dead Endgame series that we all sort of talk about is we don't know how that's going to play out. Like, we don't know if it's going to be in like a Walking Dead season 12, right? If they want to like bring that show back in some way and just sort of do a final season, or if it's going to be a new series, if it's going to be on any of the other spinoffs like Daryl Dixon or Dead City, or even in like the Ones Who Live season 2 or like a 3, because who knows if they're going to do another Rick and Michonne story before that, right? Like, we don't know the overall timeline here, but I do think like for sure in the next 5 years. I know 5 years is a very long time, but like I think that they really do want to build up a lot of the story here. And as we go from season to season, getting to know all these characters and building up, some of the worlds here in each show, there's going to be a lot of connections made. I think that's what Gimple's working on right now, right? Like there's little things here and there that are sort of being set up for the future. And so I think that's why when he said to David Zabel, like, you can do whatever you want right now, but just for now, and I think that as we get into season 3, 4, 5, around there's going to be these moments here and there where Gimple's like, well, you have to follow certain rules and you have to do this. This character needs to be here. We need to do certain things like this. And then David Zabel, he's going to have to handle all of that, right? Very similar to The Walking Dead, where Angela Kang, like, she ran the show. She sort of managed everything, but Gimple would be like, all right, well, we need to have the characters here. We need these characters to survive or this and that. But for the most part, Angela Kang could sort of do whatever she wanted to, right? And so, yeah, I'm really excited about the fact that I think in the next couple of seasons here, we are going to start getting a lot more connections. I mean, they're already starting to do that. Like, I think the first seasons of these shows, you kind of had to establish, like, the shows on their own. And then obviously in season 2, there wasn't as many connections, but they have set up some stuff here with Laurent going back to the Commonwealth. So there is some setup happening. And I think as we go from season to season, there's going to be a lot more. And so I'm excited about Dead City season 2, right? Because there's been some rumors of some connections to Fear the Walking Dead. And so I'm kind of curious about that. I don't know if that's even true at all, but I just wonder about certain connections that they can overall make and, just how they're going to build up the story here. I think that Daryl and Carol are going to eventually have to come back to America because I just don't see everyone reuniting in like Europe or wherever they're going to be. Like, sure, Daryl and Carol may travel around or whatever, but when the reunion actually happens, it's probably going to be in America because it's a lot to explain all the other characters going to Europe, like Rick and Michonne and like Maggie and Negan, right? It was a lot to explain Carol getting there. Like, yes, in a way, the CRM would just travel there, so like that makes a lot of sense, but also in terms of the timeline too, like there's just a lot of little things there that I think they have to work out. Like, I think you somehow have to jump forward in time, like with Daryl Dixon and The Ones Who Live Anyways, because obviously those shows are set around like, I think it's like 5 years roughly before Dead City, and Dead City, like they're not going to be jumping forward in time too much. And also I don't really care if they do like a 6-month time jump in the show or like a year time jump in Dead City, because the other shows are obviously going to jump forward in time like 7 or 8 years. Like, the complaints about that is like, to me, it doesn't really matter overall, because when these characters reunite, they're all going to reunite and they're all going to, connect at some point. And they're not going to do it where Maggie and Negan obviously met Daryl and like Rick and Michonne before Dead City even, happened. Because that would be absolutely insane if that actually was the case. Like, that would be, I honestly, I wouldn't be that happy about that. So I think that, that's likely not going to be what happens. Because for Negan, if it's set so far into the future, like for him, it's been like, what, 10 to 15 years since he's seen Rick? Like, it's been a very long time. And I think even for Maggie as well, it's been just as long. And so I think to connect those two after however long, would be really amazing. You would have to explain why Maggie and Negan never saw Rick and Michonne yet, because it's 5 years in the future. Like, why haven't they saw them yet? Which I think, is possible. It's like he wouldn't really talk with them, because why would Rick and Michonne want to anyways, right? And then I think for Maggie, like Maggie sort of left off on bad terms with, I guess with Rick and Michonne, like specifically with Michonne because they got into that argument, but it was generally with both of them because of what to do with Negan. So I think it would be kind of cool to sort of get back to that story at some point in the future. But yeah, for Maggie, she's just been gone and she was at the Bricks. And so I could easily see the explanation being that Maggie just left the Commonwealth and she was at the Bricks. She literally built up a new community and she hasn't really been in touch with anybody back at the Commonwealth. Like, I think that explanation works. And then for Daryl and Carol, it'll be, it's easy. Like, maybe they've been there for however long, and obviously the timelines match where like they don't even know yet. So yeah, just this quote though, kind of, it was exciting because I think that it does mean that eventually at some point they are going to be like for sure building to this endgame reunion where we do see Rick and Daryl and like just everyone reuniting. I think it's going to be honestly really incredible. So yeah, I'm excited for this, but definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. At what point in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, or maybe in like Dead City, do you think that Scott Gimple's going to be a little bit more involved in terms of connecting, certain characters or having characters involved in those shows? Because I imagine, going into season 3 here of both shows, they're probably going to start hard to do that right away, right? So yeah, but let me know your thoughts down below. I will be posting my Q&A video, so stay tuned for that. That should be out in a couple of hours from now. And yeah, I have a lot of videos that I want to do on, I guess, the finale and also some season 3 stuff as well. There was a lot that actually happened in that trailer, so I do want to talk about that a little bit more in depth and yeah, give some predictions on, like, you know, the new group that we're seeing and a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.